Let me tell you something about Portugal. David Newman, who is now the #2 person at NASA, a PhD astrophysicist who is working on putting a person on Mars, until just very recently when she was appointed to that position, ran MIT's Portugal program. And let me tell you what David Newman says about Portugal. She says the quality of innovation and technology coming out of the major Portuguese universities is equal to that in the major US universities. Think about what an extraordinary statement that is from a PhD astrophysicist from MIT. The quality is equal. In June, we brought a trade mission to Portugal. Now, this is the second trade mission. We brought one a year before. The year before, it was in the technology area in general, and I led that trade mission. This time, I thought, maybe, just maybe, a stretch of the imagination, perhaps it could be just a tiny bit better than instead of my leading that trade mission, we bring a Nobel Prize winner to lead that trade mission. And we did. I called Dr. Craig Mello, Portuguese by ancestry, 2006 Nobel Prize winner in medicine. And he came to Portugal. And we brought investors, we brought research institutions, we brought companies. And we started in Lisbon, and we went to Coimbra, and then we went to Porto, and we went to Braga. And we looked at the quality of research and innovation in the biotech and life science arena. And at the end of that mission, Kim and I were having breakfast with him, and I said to him, help me out. I don't have the necessary training to be able to evaluate what's happening here in Portugal. Would you consider it good, average, or below average? And you know what he said? It's cutting edge for anywhere in the world. The 2006 Nobel Prize winner in medicine says what's happening today in Portugal in the life science and biotech arena is cutting edge for anywhere in the world. Now let me ask a question. How many people in this audience, by a show of hands, are surprised by David Newman's statement and Craig Mello's statement? Come on, raise your hands. Come on. Okay, so about half. This is what I mean. You have to believe in yourselves. You have to believe in yourselves. You have to believe for you to be successful and that Portugal as a country be successful, that you're as good as you are because you are. And it's not my saying it, it's people that are qualified validators saying that. So, if you're going to be successful in life, you have to have confidence in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to believe in you as an individual, as an entrepreneur, as somebody that wants to start a company. And why? Because in order to be successful, the second thing that you have to know is you have to take risks. It's counter to what exists in Portugal, where failure becomes a stigma. But as Kim pointed out, look at the successful people in the world. Okay? They have taken risks. And if you're confident in yourself, you're not going to be afraid to take those risks because you know if you take a risk, you're not always going to be right, you're not always going to be successful. But if you believe in yourself, you know you can come back and be stronger. Anybody here know who Paul Fireman is? No fair. Let me tell you about Paul Fireman. Paul Fireman is somebody that I grew up with. As a matter of fact, I used to caddy for him when I was a kid. Paul Fireman took over his family sporting goods store in the hometown that I grew up in, Brockton, Massachusetts. The business had been in his family for 80 years, and he promptly drove that sporting goods store into bankruptcy. But Paul, the sporting goods, you understand what I'm saying, you know, sell tennis rackets and soccer balls and American footballs and things like that. So Paul had an idea, and it didn't work out in his family's sporting goods store. So he looked around, but he had confidence in himself and confidence in his idea. So eventually, he bought the US rights to a British athletic shoe manufacturer named after an African animal that nobody had ever heard of before, and turned it into an international brand. Anybody want to guess? Reebok. Reebok. The person that drove his family hardware store into bankruptcy became the successful president of Reebok. And that's the third factor. You have to be persistent. Confidence in yourself. You have to take risks. You have to realize that some of those risks are not going to pan out, but you have to be persistent and you have to keep trying. And that brings me to the next point. There's one other thing you have to be able to do, because it's not the smartest person that succeeds. It's not even the most confident person that succeeds. It's not the hardest working person or the person that has the most love. It's the person that has the ability to also adapt to change, because we live in a changing world. And I'm going to tell you two quick stories. How many in this room heard of Anne Wang? A couple of people. How many have heard of Steve Jobs? Everybody. Let me tell you about Anne Wang and Steve Jobs. An engineer came to the United States from China. He got his PhD from Harvard, and he was involved in the computing industry. He started a company called Wang Laboratories that made calculating devices and word processors. And by the time the mid-80s came around, he had built up an incredibly successful company. 80% of the 2,000 largest businesses of the world had Wang computers on their desk. He was the first to have the CRT screens that went along with the computers. At its heyday, Wang employed 33,000 people, had revenues of $3 billion, had a headquarters that they built for $70 million, and Anne Wang was the fifth richest person in the United States in the middle 1980s. By 1992, Wang was bankrupt. Why? Because what Anne Wang didn't see was the future of the personal computer. He saw business computing, he saw the competition in business computing, and he didn't know how to adjust. When Anne Wang died, he received about a quarter-page obituary in the print newspapers in the United States, attesting to what he had accomplished earlier in his career, but his company was bankrupt. Take Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs didn't get a PhD from Harvard. Steve Jobs dropped out of Reed's College. He went to India to find spiritual enlightenment. He started Apple Computer, and as Kim pointed out, he got fired. That's okay, we adjust. That's my smile, we'll do it. So Steve Jobs gets fired from Apple Computer. What does he do next? He starts Pixar, animation studios. He starts Next Computer. His famous expression, which Kim talked about, again, the heaviness of success replaced by the lightness of starting over and being creative. He's resilient, he's persistent. He does that, he comes back to Apple computer, and he changes the way we use our phones. He changes the way we listen to music. He changes the way that we deal with personal computing, because he saw the future. He saw the future of the personal computer. And he saw the power of the internet, which was not even in existence when he graduated high school. He saw the changing world. He saw the future of tablet computing. And when Steve Jobs died, as President Obama said, most people found out about his death on a device he had invented. And that's the difference between a brilliant scientist that isn't able to adapt to changing circumstances, and somebody who doesn't graduate from college but is a brilliant innovator and does. So, there is great opportunity here in Portugal for everybody in this room. Those of you that are starting businesses, those who are involved in your businesses, those of you that are entrepreneurs, you have got a bright future ahead of yourself. Believe in yourself. Take risk. Be persistent and adapt to changing circumstances. And who knows, you may just change the world yourselves. Thank you.